What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today we're going to be recapping week 2 of New York Giants OTAs. That's right, they finished their 6th practice on Thursday afternoon. That wraps up their second week of practices here in OTAs. Now they're off for the weekend. They'll be back at it next week, and then following next week's OTAs, they will have veteran mini camp, and then they'll be done until the end of the summer or until the end of July when they kick off summer practices for training camp. So a little over halfway done with the OTAs period, these spring practices, but plenty to take away from them so far as this new look New York Giants team takes the field all together for the first time for practices of the season. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. If you missed my week 1 OTAs recap and takeaways, you can go back on the channel and check that out. There's going to be some updates to those takeaways in this episode, and there's going to be a little bit of a compilation of some of the stuff that we've discussed over the past several days. We'll talk about the quarterbacks. Our man right here, Jaxson Dart, as you see in the graphic. There's a lot to discuss with him, Russell Wilson as well, and then some big takeaways on the defensive side of the ball as well. So all that, we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it. But we're going to start here with what occurred on Thursday's practice, which was a big fight. Yes, the New York Giants practice ended early on Thursday after a fight. According to Pat Leonard, Giants edge rusher Brian Burns and their newly signed left tackle James Hudson III took their helmets off and squared off to fight. The teammates broke it up. Kayvon Thibodeau then punched Jermaine Illuminor's helmet off. The next snap, Hudson rushed onto the field, shoved Thibodeau. Burns and Hudson tackled each other to the ground. So there was a big sprawl. There was a big fight between some of the offensive and defensive linemen. Not really a big deal. In fact, Brian Burns spoke after Thursday's practice to the media and said the heat got to us. Guys were trying to get better. Tensions raised high. It isn't that deep. We already squashed it. He said that it's healthy at times for some of the players on the team to fight. So I'll say this, my takeaways from it, I love practice fights. I love the intensity. I love the aggression. I love the competitive nature. I think all of this is important to team building, to chemistry building, and for all of these players who are striving to get better, as Brian Burns said. I think it's a good thing that they're fighting. I think it's a good thing that the intensity is high as early as June. Now, you don't want this to become an everyday occurrence. You don't want to see this happen too often, but you'll see more of it in July as well. In training camp, we know that there's always some fights. Last year, there were several fights between the Giants players, even Giants and Detroit Lions players during those joint practices. I think we all remember when Malik Neighbors got into a fight. I think it was with Kirby Joseph during last year's joint practices with the Lions. So you're going to see fights. It is hot outside. It is intense on that practice field. And again, I think it's a good thing to see that competitive nature. Again, you don't want to see it too often, but you do want to see it every now and then. I do think that it indicates there is a level of intensity that's being brought to the practice field. And hey, you got to practice how you play. You got to be intense during practice so you can be intense on game days. So yeah, Brian Burns, James Hudson, Thibodeau, and Illuminor getting into a little bit of a scrap and forcing practice to be cut short on Thursday. But what else occurred on Thursday? Let's talk about the quarterbacks. Let's talk about Russell Wilson first and foremost. According to the practice report, Russell Wilson opened up 7-on-7 drills with a completion to Theo Johnson and to Jaylen Hyatt. After the practice, Russell Wilson talked some more about Jaylen Hyatt and said, "I really believe in him." That was the quote. And listen, we've talked a lot about Jaylen Hyatt over the last several weeks. We talked about him as a player to keep an eye on at OTAs. And then once OTAs kicked off, we talked about him as a player who has been stepping up to the plate. Reminder, guys, Jaylen Hyatt is playing with the first team. He's getting extra opportunities, extra looks as a result of Malik Neighbors being sidelined due to that toe injury. Remember, Malik Neighbors has a toe injury that Brian Dable said he's been dealing with since college. It hasn't really been a big deal, and it's not something that they think he needs any procedures on, no surgery in insights, nothing like that. But essentially, they're just trying to bubble wrap Malik Neighbors, keep him healthy and ready to go for training camp next month. That's essentially the gist on Neighbors and this mysterious toe injury that popped up. Really just playing it smart with him and bubble wrapping him. But as a result of Neighbors not being in the lineup, it was Jaylen Hyatt who was called to compete with the starters in the first team. And he has really stepped up to the plate. I can't say enough good things. He's looked really solid. He's made a lot of big plays, including a big 40-plus yard touchdown grab from Russell Wilson a couple days ago at practice. So I got to say, I'm pretty excited by what we've seen from Hyatt. Now, again, these are non-padded practices. This is helmets and shorts and t-shirts. These are not contact practices. So it's a big difference between Hyatt putting his speed on the football field and making plays versus when we get the pads on, can he have some physicality to get open on some of those other reps? That's been his biggest question mark. That's been his biggest struggle, is getting open against physical cornerbacks. Now moving forward, will he have the ability to do that? According to reports, Jaylen Hyatt did add some weight, some muscle mass to his frame. It certainly does look that way when you see pictures of him right now. He does look like a bigger, stronger version of himself. Hopefully that lends himself to a more physical game, and hopefully he can get open more frequently during the season. But as we all know, he's balled out in the summers before. Even last summer, he looked really good during training camp. It didn't translate to the regular season. He barely played in the regular season. Will Jaylen Hyatt be able to earn himself more opportunities if he continues to play well throughout the rest of OTAs and into training camp? Absolutely. I think he'll earn more opportunities. He just needs to stay consistent and, again, prove it once we get onto a field with pads. But I'll say this about Jaylen Hyatt. I'm really excited about him. If he's ever going to break out, it's going to happen this season. Russell Wilson is one of the best deep ball passers in NFL history. The guy has a moon ball that is thrown to perfection. In fact, Wan'Dale Robinson had some really good quotes about that too. I'm going to go ahead and pull those up so we can discuss what Wan'Dale Robinson had to say about his excitement playing with Russell Wilson. But essentially, guys, we've said it once before. We'll say it again. Jaylen Hyatt playing with Russell Wilson, this is the time for him to finally have that breakout. And Russell Wilson really believes in him. He can't stop talking about Jaylen Hyatt. Every single practice, it seems like he has some praise to offer for Hyatt. In his introductory press conference, he said that he feels that Hyatt has untapped potential. It's very clear to me that Russell Wilson is trying to instill confidence in Jaylen Hyatt. He's really trying to build him up and give him a reason to be confident on the field, whether that's through the reps that he's practicing, the throws that he's being given, or just from words of confidence in the media. Russell Wilson's really trying to prop up Jaylen Hyatt and give him an opportunity to succeed this season. I think that's really exciting. I think Russell Wilson's leadership has really been on full display throughout OTAs, whether we're talking about him praising Jaylen Hyatt, whether we're talking about him mentoring Jaxson Dart, which he does have some quotes on from yesterday's practice as well. So all in all, really impressed with what Russell Wilson has done so far as the 10-time Pro Bowler, veteran quarterback stepping in the room at 36 years old. He's done a really good job taking some of these guys under his wing and giving them opportunities to impress the coaching staff, namely Jaylen Hyatt being the number one beneficiary of Russell Wilson's presence so far. But I'll say I think Jaxson Dart is benefiting as well. And again, we're going to get to that in just a second. But I want to find these quotes from Wan'Dale about Russell Wilson because I think there really was a lot to like. So he was asked, what's life like with a new quarterback? Wan'Dale Robinson said, it's been nice. A guy that's been in the league a long time. He tells you what he wants out there, running routes in the spots he needs you to be in. So it's been really nice. It's been great. He said, each and every day, just trying to build more and just continue to grow out there on the field. And then he also mentioned how when he throws those passes, it's kind of like a pillow. He mentioned that those deep passes, they drop right in the bucket like a pillow. Here's the exact quote. That deep ball just drops right in the bucket for sure. And then whenever he's just throwing his shorter routes and stuff like that, it kind of comes in like a pillow. It's really, really easy to catch, which I like. And I'm not trying to bring this up in an effort to down talk with Daniel Jones, but I just want to make a highlight comparison here. We used to praise Daniel Jones at times for his ability to make some accurate passes, but one of the criticisms that we've had is a lot of his passes came in with very little touch. They came in with a lot of pace on them, a lot of velocity. At times, that's a good thing. We've praised Daniel Jones for that before, but there were also moments where there were some passes that sure hit the receiver's hands, but were ultimately dropped because they were very difficult to catch passes. Were they technically accurate and catchable? Yes. But were they easily catchable? Oftentimes, no. He would throw them away from the receiver. The receiver would have to dive, and the ball would come in really hot, and it would just be a really difficult catch to manage. But with Russell Wilson, one of the things we've praised is his touch. I mean, nobody has better touch on their deep passes than Russell Wilson. And even on his short passes, he's got the ability to just hit these receivers in stride and make the ball really catchable and really easy to run into in stride for these wide receivers. So I just think that it's important to note that contrast. Again, not bringing this up and trying to, talk bad about Jones, but really trying to compare and contrast in an effort to prop up our current starting quarterback here in Russell Wilson and offer him some praise because he throws a very catchable ball and he does put the ball in spots where the receivers can run into it and grab it in stride. And it makes it very easy to catch and just a very catchable football. So I really like those quotes from Wan'Dale Robinson. Again, it just kind of reinforces things that we've said before on this channel that Russell Wilson knows how to throw a ball that's easy to catch. And at times over the past couple of seasons, not just Daniel Jones, but Drew Lock as well, just firing it in there and making the catch really hard to manage for these receivers. I think this is going to be a great change of pace. And with Wan'Dale stating how Russ is telling him where to be, the timing on things, all of that is important because as we mentioned, how many times have we seen Wan'Dale Robinson catch a pass just 2 yards in front of the line of scrimmage, but it's behind him, so he's tackled for a 2-yard gain. But then imagine if the ball came out a second faster and he was able to catch it in stride and turn upfield and make it a 6-yard gain. Well, instead of 3rd and 8, you're talking 3rd and 4. And 3rd and 4 is a lot more manageable than 3rd and 8. Your entire playbook changes on plays like that. So those are some of the points that we brought up before, and we're already seeing those things come to fruition here at OTAs. We're already seeing Wan'Dale Robinson and Russell Wilson themselves mention these things and put practice into play on the practice field, so to speak. So again, some exciting quotes there from Wan'Dale Robinson and definitely plenty to break down. Yesterday, here are the stats on the quarterbacks from Thursday's OTAs, courtesy of Connor Hughes of SNY. Russell Wilson went 10 of 14 with a touchdown and an interception and was sacked twice. Jaxson Dart went 5 of 9 with 2 interceptions and a sack. Jameis Winston was 4 of 8. He had 2 runs as well and 1 snap breakdown. The snap counts, though, I think are really important to note, and that's the next topic that I want to dive into and really focus on Jaxson Dart here. Russell Wilson took all of his snaps with the first team. He is very clearly the starting quarterback. There is really no room for debate. He is very firmly placed in the starting lineup, and that doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. Jaxson Dart received only 1 rep with the first team, as did Jameis Winston. But Jaxson Dart yesterday did receive 8 snaps with the second team, compared to 5 snaps with the second team for Jameis Winston. Dart had only 1 rep with the third team. Meanwhile, Jameis Winston had 6 reps with the third team. Again, this is only for the 11-on-11 drills. This is not including 7-on-7 reps. But at the 11-on-11 reps yesterday, Jaxson Dart was pretty firmly placed as the second string quarterback. Again, that's only 1 day of practice, and I believe this is the first occurrence for Jaxson Dart to get the majority of his reps with the second team. It's very possible that if they practice again next week, he's back with the third team. I think they're just trying to ramp him up and get him used to throwing to all of the different receivers on the team. First team receivers, second team receivers, third team receivers. It's important for the young rookie quarterback of the future to have chemistry with everybody. But I do think it is notable that he's already earned those second team reps. Oftentimes, you'll see young rookie quarterbacks who were drafted at the end of the first round go out there, compete, and really only throw to the third team for the majority of the spring and the summer because they've got 2 veteran quarterbacks ahead of them on the depth chart. But right now, it seems like it's kind of an open competition. The first team quarterback position seems to be locked in by Russell Wilson, and that doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. But how about that QB2? How about that second string on the depth chart? That's very much open for grabs between Jaxson Dart and Jameis Winston. And to be honest with you guys, I think that's a pretty important battle to watch throughout the summer. If Jameis Winston ends up becoming the third string quarterback, Jaxson Dart locks in as QB2 because he outperforms Jameis Winston throughout the summer. I do think there becomes a conversation of, is Jameis Winston on the trade block? The Giants signed him to be a QB2, but if he's not performing as a QB2 and falls into QB3, and the Giants already feel confident that Jaxson Dart can be the QB2 as a rookie, I think there are going to be teams out there who view Jameis Winston as a potential trade target who could be their QB2 or even QB1 for a quarterback-needy team that suffers an injury midseason. Or maybe looking at a team like the Saints, who doesn't really have an established starting quarterback on their roster, just a couple of young guys who are competing and probably failing. They might look at Jameis Winston as an attractive option as a QB2/fringe QB1 for that team. So definitely keep an eye on this as Jaxson Dart earns these second team reps. If he can land himself that QB2 position on the initial depth chart later this summer, that could have significant ramifications for Jameis Winston and his future with the New York Giants. Of course, Jameis did sign a 2-year contract with the Giants, but it's only $4 million per season. Very easy to cut ties with that contract and move on if the Giants so choose. And again, if Jaxson Dart is ready to go and is outperforming Jameis consistently throughout the summer, I think some conversations will open up at the end of training camp, end of preseason. And if he's still on this roster going into the regular season, ahead of the trade deadline. So keep an eye on this. Definitely important. But I will also note, I gave you the good. Now it's time to give you the bad. Jaxson Dart did earn those second team reps. He did not play well with those second team reps. He had a rough team period yesterday where he threw 2 passes that were broken up at the line of scrimmage, and he also threw an interception and took a sack. So he had 4 reps during one of the team periods yesterday, went 0 for 3 with an interception and a sack. So not the best from Jaxson Dart there. Again, he's working his way up. He's ramping up. I think getting these second team reps and having him fail in these practices early is important. The only way that you're going to get better is by failing. So having Jaxson Dart take these reps with the second team, struggle throughout them, he'll have his moments of brilliance. He'll have some highlights. In fact, he did have a completion down the right sideline to Amir Smith-Marset yesterday. There's a great video of it posted online. He pump faked to the flat and threw over the top down the sideline about 15, 20 yards downfield, made a big completion there. But again, in one of those reps or one of those team periods of 4 snaps that he received, he really did play poorly. But that doesn't mean that overall he's been bad. Again, his stat line came in at 5 of 9 with 2 interceptions. So again, not the best today for Jaxson Dart, but that's okay. This is what you want to see is these rookie growing pains start to get ironed out early. He's going to have some growing pains for sure, but I'd rather him force these football in the tight windows, throw some interceptions now, turn the ball over now, and learn from those mistakes. The only way that you can fail really is upward if you're Jaxson Dart. You're stepping into the NFL as a rookie. You got a lot to learn. This is the time to learn it, and this is the time to make these mistakes and to fail and to learn from those failures and turn them into growing points. So again, that's really the quarterback update. Russell Wilson firmly placed in there as the QB1. He also mentioned some great things about how he's just trying to be himself and leave a good impression on Jaxson Dart. He's not necessarily mentoring him or coaching him one-on-one intentionally, but Russell Wilson kind of explained that he's going to go out there and do his best every single day. And as he does that, he hopes that Jaxson Dart and Jameis Winston watch that and absorb that and learn from that. So more than leading by direct approach, it's going to be a lead by example approach for Russell Wilson, as he mentioned. And again, we've talked about it. There are few quarterbacks that Jaxson Dart can learn more from than the combination of Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Jameis is one of the best locker room guys in the NFL, according to all accounts. So he's going to learn a lot from that regard in terms of his leadership in the locker room and his personality. But then from Russell Wilson, there's few quarterbacks that you're going to learn more from in terms of that pre-snap recognition, in terms of that ability to throw the ball downfield, that preparation, those details, all those little things of playing the quarterback position. Russell Wilson has played it at a Hall of Fame level. So there's so much from Jaxson Dart to learn just from watching and observing. So again, a really great quarterback room for Jaxson Dart to be in, also with Brian Daboll as his coach. I think this is a perfect environment for Dart, as I've said many times before. And as we see now, Jaxson Dart getting involved in the mix, earning some second team reps, yes, struggling along the way, but getting a lot of valuable experience during this OTAs period. And I just can't wait to see him in training camp next month, fly out to New York. As you all know, I'm a Florida resident, but fly out to New York and attend a few of those practices in New Jersey, right across from MetLife Stadium, and hopefully meet many of you there as we root on our boy, Jaxson Dart. But now that we've talked about the quarterbacks and we talked a little bit about the receivers with Wandale and, of course, with Jaylen Hyatt, I want to flip over to the defensive side of the ball and talk about some of the guys who've been standing out there or any of the interesting takeaways that we have. Brian Burns and Abdul Carter had would-be sacks again on Thursday. It's not the first time, won't be their last time, but those two have come up in the practice reports rather often as getting pressure and sacks on the quarterbacks. So I'm definitely excited to hear that, definitely excited to see first and foremost, and most importantly, that Abdul Carter, our number 3 overall pick, has been making an impact. Brian Burns discussed it during his media availability yesterday that the Giants are planning on getting really creative and moving all those guys around and having Carter on the field with Thibodeau and with Burns. And Shane Bowen talked about that as well. He said that from the outside looking in, it might look like you have 3 guys to play 2 spots, but in reality, they want to get all of their best guys on the field at once. So those are 3 guys who are going to be on the field at the same time rather often, is what Shane Bowen tried to explain. He mentioned that they're already coming up with different packages and different ways to get these guys on the field all together. And honestly, I'm really excited about that. I think that's important. As we've said before, this defensive line on paper should be one of the best in the NFL. This defense on paper should be a top 10 unit. The only thing that would hold them back is poor coaching, because they've definitely got the talent on paper. And so Shane Bowen kind of explaining that he's already started to map out ways to get all these guys on the field and maximize their talents. I think that's crucial, and I think that's important to take note of as we get closer to training camp, once they start to install more of those defensive packages and start to figure out their alignments with some of their player personnel, especially on the defensive line. So some important takeaways there. Again, Burns and Carter have appeared in these practice reports rather often, getting after the quarterback and getting into the backfield. So some good stuff there. Thibodeau, I didn't see as much of yesterday, other than, getting into that fight. But Kayvon's been good as well. I've seen him pop up in some of these practice reports and make some plays here or there. So definitely no need for concern. And honestly, Kayvon looks like he got a lot bigger and stronger. His upper body looks more filled out. His arms look completely yoked right now in the pictures that I've seen from OTAs. So all of that is good stuff and exciting. I think one of the knocks that we've had on Thibodeau has been perhaps a perceived lack of strength in the trenches. That's kind of led to some struggles in run defense and against some more powerful offensive tackles, even in his pass rushing skill set. But it does look like he's added some weight and some size and some mass to his frame, which again, I think is important for Thibodeau, and hopefully should lend itself to a more productive 2025 season. Definitely looking forward to seeing that from Kayvon. And yeah, essentially that's the update on the defensive line. One extra update. This is on a defensive lineman, but it has nothing to do with the defensive line. Elijah Chapman, who we've discussed has been a standout at practice over the last couple of episodes when we did the trenches update episode for OTAs. We did discuss Elijah Chapman and how often he's been making plays. He had some would-be sacks. He had some pass breakups, some batted down passes at the line of scrimmage. He's been moving all over the place, including, and this is the update that I have for you, to the offensive side of the ball to play some fullback. Yes, Elijah Chapman, the undersized 278-pound interior defender, has flipped over to the offensive side of the ball, Nikita Whitlock style, for those of you who recognize that name as Giants fans, or William the Fridge Perry, for those of you who remember him for the Chicago Bears in the 80s before I was even alive. Some exciting stuff here. Elijah Chapman playing a little bit of fullback. Now, how often will he do that in the NFL season, in the regular season? Who knows? Will we see him take some reps there in the preseason? Perhaps. I just thought that was an interesting note and something a little bit exciting to mention here as we talk about the defensive line, seeing Elijah Chapman line up on the other side of the ball. Now, who is the player that we have discussed the most throughout OTAs? If you know it, comment it down below. But if you don't, I'm about to say it. It's Dane Beltton. Heading into OTAs, I mentioned Dane Beltton as a guy to keep an eye on. He's always been a practice standout. He's always been around the football during the regular season when he's had his snaps. And throughout OTAs, that's been probably the best call we've made on this channel so far, saying to keep an eye on Dane Beltton, because I don't think anybody has performed better throughout OTAs than the fourth-year safety out of Iowa, Dane Beltton. He had another interception at Thursday's practice. That makes 3 picks in 6 practices with a handful of other pass breakups as well. 2 of those interceptions, not yesterday's, but the 2 prior, were both pick sixes. So the kid is just making a ton of plays. As you all know, he's a 6'1" safety who has experience playing nickel. He has experience playing a little bit of a linebacker as well during his time at Iowa. A very versatile piece that hasn't found his footing as a starter in the Giants defense, but has definitely found his footing and is continuing to find that footing as a rotational depth piece. Now, we know that the Giants spent big at safety with Javon Holland, paying him $15 million per year. We know that they invested a second-round pick last year into Tyler Nubin. Those two have also played well throughout OTAs. They're going to be the starting safeties. But as this Giants defense attempts to be more versatile and to move players around, as we mentioned, with Burns, Carter, and Thibodeau, they're going to do the same thing on the back end with the secondary. And Belton is going to be a big part of that, because he really has outperformed just about everybody at OTAs, and he's looked great. And I definitely think he's earning his way to some first-team reps during training camp, an extended look in the starting lineup, or in some packages that would play him with the starters, maybe some 3 safety sets, some big nickel defense or some dime packages, whatever the case might be. I definitely think we're going to see more Dane Beltton this season to reward him for the really great work that he's done this spring, and that I anticipate will continue going into the summer. So Dane Beltton, guys, a player who's looked fantastic during OTAs. Definitely keep an eye on him as we get closer to training camp, because he sounds like a player who, is a backup, but is definitely carving out a larger role for himself so far through OTAs. Very impressed with him. Shane Bowen mentioned him specifically during his time speaking with the media yesterday, said that Dane Belton's been great and that they're looking for more ways to get him on the field. So really, really interested in Dane Beltton's development and hyped up to see that he's playing so well. Now, another takeaway, this is flipping back to the offensive side of the ball. Darius Slayton reportedly had a big practice on Thursday. He had a big 40-yard touchdown pass that he caught from Jameis Winston during 7-on-7s, but also a handful of other receptions. He's been good. He's looked really solid. He caught a deep pass from Russell Wilson the other day as well. So as we get into I believe this is 7 of Darius Slayton's career, all 7 spent with the New York Giants as a former 5th-round pick back in 2019. Slayton, wearing a new number 18, switching over from 86, has looked good in these practices. And I'll say this about Slayton, definitely been an underrated player for several years. Definitely been a player who comes in and shows up and contributes every single year. Excuse me, despite some bad quarterback play. But he's always been a vertical pass catcher, a guy who is maximized best when he's running those deep routes. But as we've said for all of these receivers, it's been hard for the Giants to hit those deep shots with the quarterback room that they've had over the last several years. If you think back, though, to 2023 when Tyrod Taylor started those games down the final stretch of the season, who popped off? Darius Slayton on a lot of deep passes. Remember that deep touchdown against the Rams, that deep touchdown against the Philadelphia Eagles. We saw a serious increase in production from Darius Slayton when Tyrod Taylor was on the field. And now that we have Jameis Winston, who's proficient at throwing the deep ball, we have Russell Wilson, who is the most proficient at throwing the deep ball. We've got some guys that can actually target Darius Slayton downfield. And now Jaxson Dart, of course, included in that conversation. He's a great deep ball passer in his own right. But Darius Slayton, I do think, is in store for an uptick in production as WR2 for the New York Giants following his $12 million per season payday this offseason. So some good stuff there. Again, Darius Slayton continuing to contribute. Now, one other defensive back that I want to note is Cordell Flat. Cordell Flat was taking reps with the second team ahead of Deonte Banks. It's unclear why, if there was some sort of injury involved or some tiredness or whatever it was. Shane Bowen did mention that Deonte Banks has been very attentive and very locked in during the meetings and on the practice field as well. But Cordell Flat did get some second team reps. I think it was on Thursday and on the practice prior to that, which I think would have been Tuesday. He's been playing a lot more and he's been playing well. He's had several pass breakups. So I wonder if Cordell Flat might finally be turning a corner as well. We saw him make some better plays down the stretch last season and earn an extended look in the starting lineup when Deonte Banks was injured and banged up and just overall not playing well last season. Flat did kind of step up to the plate and play his best football so far. He's gotten better every single season of his career. Now entering year 4, contract year. I'm excited to see what Cordell Flat has in store for us. And I'll say this. At 2022 draft class, we have given a lot of criticism to, rightfully so. None of them have lived up to expectations, but they are all young players who have gotten better every single season. Think about Micah McFadden, where he is in year 4 versus where he was in year 1. I hope they extend him ASAP because he's become a really good starting player for the Giants. But then you've got a guy like Belton who's slowly been a rotational backup developing and is now playing at a starter level and could end up becoming a player who also earns an extension with the Giants if he plays well this year in his final season of his rookie contract. And again, say the same exact thing about Cordell Flat. He's gotten better every single year. Final season of his rookie deal. Could he earn an extension if he plays well this season? Quite possibly. And then the other fourth-year player who, maybe we're not as excited about, Josh Azidu, the update that I do have on him, during Thursday's practice, he did take reps at guard. Hallelujah. Thank God, right? We talked about him several days ago in one of these practice reports, how he was playing second-team left tackle. What was the thinking there? I'm not entirely sure why the Giants have been playing him at tackle when he's so clearly and obviously a guard. Well, it seems like they still plan on mixing him into both of those positions. He did play primarily guard at Thursday's practice, despite spending most of the first week playing left tackle. So that's the update on Josh Azidu. And an update on Evan Neal at Thursday. He actually earned reps with the starters at left guard. Now, there's a caveat here. John Runyon Jr. is not practicing at OTAs. He is still nursing the injury that sidelined him for the second half of last season. He's working to get back to full strength. But in the meantime, they do have Evan Neal practicing, developing at left guard as he makes his transition from right tackle over to the interior. He's the left guard with the first team right now, which I do think is interesting. He started out as the second string left guard last week at OTAs, but he has earned some first-team reps, so let's keep an eye on him. So that 2022 draft class seems like it's going to be pivotal for the Giants this year. You've got Kayvon Thibodeau, we mentioned earlier. He's been moving around Is he going to see a reduction in snaps? What's his season going to look like with Carter on the field alongside him and Burns as well? That's going to be interesting to monitor. The number 5 overall pick in the 2022 draft. But then you have the number 7 overall pick, which of course is Evan Neal. He's looked, he's having this transition from tackle to guard. How is that going to go? Well, he's earned some looks with the first team, which I think is interesting. That 3rd round pick, of course, being Josh Azidu. What does he have in store, and where is he going to play? Left tackle, left guard. We'll see. We also mentioned 2nd round 2022 pick Wan'Dale Robinson earlier as a guy who's been getting along well and gelling nicely with Russell Wilson. Could he be in store for a breakout season? And then 4th round pick Dane Beltton, we mentioned, is the standout of training camp so far. 5th round pick Micah McFadden has had interceptions during OTAs. He's become an integral piece of the Giants defense, and so on and so forth. So that 2022 class, again, we've criticized it quite heavily, but perhaps we were a little too harsh on them. Perhaps we were a little too quick to judge. We know that when you draft a class, they're not going to be instant impact from year one most of the time. Sometimes they really do need time to sit, grow, and develop. And maybe that was the case with this 2022 class. Maybe some of these guys are beginning to feel that contract year pressure and turn the corner as they enter their 4th season of their careers. I'm very excited by all the positive reports that we're getting on that 2022 class. And again, that's one of the storylines that I'm definitely keeping an eye on as we get into training camp. How do Thibodeau, Flat, who I think I forgot to mention there, he was a 3rd round pick as well for the Giants. Daniel Bellinger is in that mix. How is he going to perform? Belton, Azidu, all of these guys. Neal, that was a big draft class, had a lot of players. They haven't lived up to expectations so far, but some of them do appear to be turning the corner early here at OTAs. If they can maintain that momentum going into training camp and preseason and start to play well there, perhaps some of them do earn some roles in the lineup during the regular season. And maybe we do start to see some positive return on investment from that 2022 class. Definitely something interesting to keep an eye on as we get through these practices in the spring and in the summer. And of course, next week, we'll have more updates for you. We'll do a live stream this weekend. I know you guys have missed the live stream. Stay tuned to that. I will be live tomorrow, Saturday afternoon. I think Alex will be joining me for that. So if you've missed your Alex Wilson content, make sure to tune in when we do go live tomorrow. We're going to talk about more of these takeaways from OTAs and anything else that I might have missed in today's discussion. Also, keep in mind that I do these live streams every Wednesday and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern over on the Bleacher Report app. That includes tonight, so check me out over there on Bleacher Report at 6 p.m. Also, Giants Collective, 7 p.m. every Wednesday and Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. So check me out over there. I'll be live with the Entertainer and Bad Dog tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, talking more of Giants OTAs takeaways. They might have completely different takeaways from me. Sometimes we disagree pretty heavily. We go back and forth. It's a lot of fun. So make sure you do stay tuned for that. And again, Giants have one more week of OTAs practices. Then they have a veteran minicamp. Then they're off for the summer until training camp kicks off. But a lot of exciting content planned during this time right here on the Fireside Giants channel that you will not want to miss. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.